All right, so you're tuned in to 88.1 KZSE Santa Cruz. This is Selma to Santa Cruz, and we're here with two very special guests today, Drew Glover and John Brownschilds. So welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Where to start? I guess maybe we can, you and I can share with John a little bit about our trip to Selma, because that's like what the show is about, and I think it's good context. So like we went to over spring break. Drew organized this trip to Selma, Alabama, and it was with I believe 7 students and
8 students and 3 other community organizers outside of myself.
Okay. Yeah, and so we went as part of the Selma Resource Center for Nonviolence in Santa Cruz, and they have one in Selma, Alabama as well. And so they hosted us so graciously. They really held a very like positive and loving space. Like they called it the beloved community. And so I think everyone on that trip really learned a lot. We got to engage with the community. We worked on some planter beds, like Drew mentioned earlier. We worked with the kids, and we also got to meet some foot soldiers who were very active in the movement. So it was just a super great experience.
Yeah, when it was so wonderful to have you with us, Santiago, and the fact that you documented the entire trip, which was amazing from video to audio. So we have such a wealth of archived content to share with people ongoing, even after the show ends and potentially continues. But it came out of my first trip to Selma, Alabama in 2017, when I went there to get training in Kingian nonviolence, and just had this culture shock where it was like, wow, look at this city. I've heard about it in books, but I've never actually experienced it. Plus, I'd never been to the South before. So it was this kind of eye-opening outside of my Santa Cruz, California bubble of being in a place that was predominantly black, being in a place that has heavy connections to the civil rights movement and African-American history and empowerment. So I am a sociology major. I work in anti-racism training and all this other kind of stuff. So for me to have that experience, I had to ask myself, what would other people have when they had that experience or opportunity to be there? And so I crafted the trip in a very specific way to be able to not just be a exploration trip, but to be a true cultural exchange experience. So not only did we have 8 students, 7 of them from UCSC and 1 from Cabrillo, but I also recruited 3 other community organizers outside of myself that specialize in different areas of work. So one was William Goss, who is the Director of Advocacy and Permaculture Instructor at Project Pollinate. So took him out there with us. Also, Paul Damon from Holistic Veterans, who brought skills of Reiki and Tai Chi and different kinds of healing strategies, nutritional suggestions, and opportunities to explore the ideas of holistic care outside of normal Western medicine. And then also another gentleman named Taylor Miller from Holistic Veterans, who specialized in the area of construction because he had a lot of background in construction. So we went there with this idea of not only going to be able to learn about the rich history of Selma and to bridge cultural divides between people on the West Coast and people on the Deep South, but also to be able to bring skill sets that might be interesting, and specifically because they were requested from us to come out there. You know, like they needed help installing gutters or doing some different construction. They were really interested in self-care and healing because of the overworking that was being experienced by the activists on the ground. And then also just the idea of nonviolence, which is where I kind of wove it all in between, since I was organizing it through the Resource Center for Nonviolence. So it turned out really great. We had a lot of wonderful experiences, and like Santiago mentioned, the experience of the people that went there in their evaluation reports afterwards, and in their report back they did for the community. And I actually have an audio recording of that entire report back, and listening to the just impact that it had. And that's a really toned down word that I could probably use for the just ripples that it sent through not only my life, but I think the life of everyone on the group.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So John, I kind of wanted to ask you about your relationship to the South because you mentioned that your father's from Marion, Alabama.
That's correct. Yeah, not far from Selma and Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Childs family in Marion were part of back after the Civil War, long before my father was born, but after the Civil War, when slavery was officially ended, uh, 7 black families in Marion got together to create a school that became Lincoln Normal School to provide teaching for teachers to help bring education to African American people in the South. And Lincoln Normal School went on to be quite influential. One of its later students was Coretta Scott, before she was Coretta Scott King, for example. A relative of mine named Hasty, Roberta Childs, who became Roberta Hasty. Her husband was became the father of one of the first black federal judges, if not the first black federal judge in the U.S., and so on. He also later taught at Howard University, and one of his students was Thurgood Marshall.
Wow.
So you talk about ripples, and I think, I was thinking about those families back then in 1868, 69, had the vision to start a school in Alabama for black young men and women to become teachers. That had all sorts of ripple effects.
Yeah.